Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our third session in the Macmillan Education Asia 2020 Autumn Webinar Series. If you can hear and see me, can you just type yes in the chat box, please? Lovely job. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. We'll find out that in a moment. But before we begin the session, let me introduce myself. So I've looked in the chat box, in the attendees box, and I can see some familiar names, some people that I've met already. But my name is Del Spafford, and I'm the Regional Teacher Trainer and Academic Consultant for Macmillan Education. I'm based in Thailand, and I work across Southeast Asia, talking to teachers, training teachers, and generally helping teachers with their classroom practice and consultancy. So thank you so much for giving up your time today to be with us on this third session. One second while I just adjust my slide. One second, couple of technical details. Okay, so Macmillan Education, we've been educating or advancing learning for over 175 years now. We work with across the world as a publisher. You might know us for our most famous publication is probably Alice in Wonderland, but more importantly, we work with teachers like yourself in ELT. We work in language teaching, so in English language teaching like yourselves, where we produce print materials, digital materials to help you in your classrooms. We also work in curriculum. So with curriculum, we're talking about teaching maths and science in public schools, in schools around the world, and also teaching literacy to get our children to be able to read effectively. And we also work in higher education, so working with researchers in universities, as well as teaching in universities as well. So my session today is all about flexibility. So flexibility in flexible times. Now, this is not about flexibility in terms of your body, although that is often quite useful when you're a teacher, particularly if you're teaching primary or pre-primary students. But what we're going to look at today is mainly at some of the resources that we have available to you. And I'll come into more detail about the session aims in a moment. We have about 75 minutes for today's session, and we have some time at the end of that for a Q&A. But if you do have any questions, then please just pop them into the chat box, and I'll try and follow those as we go along. If for any reason you lose me, please don't worry. We have Daisy, who's in the presenter box there. So if anything happens, she can come online and entertain you. And we also have certificates, recordings, and these will be available at the end of the session. They'll be sent to you. And I also have some handouts that I'm going to share with you at the end of the session, which I'll share on the platform with you. Okay, so let's get started. Let's start with a warm-up activity. So my warm-up activity is I just want to know a little bit more about you. So in the chat box, can you tell me where you are and two things that you can see that start with the first letter of your name? So for example, my name is Del. I'm in my spare room in Nonthaburi, Thailand, and I can see a desk and I can see a door. Tell me about yourself. So my name is Del. I can see a desk and a door. David is in Ecuador, and he can see a desk as well. Okay, Ecuador. Welcome, David. I think it's quite late there at the moment, so thank you for your time. A pen and a pineapple, that's a good thing to see. Pan, lovely. A zoo, okay. Wow, from your window, I hope you can, it's nice to see a zoo. A jogger out of the window and a pot of jam, that's a good thing, John. Lovely. Okay. Roshio, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but you can roar like a lion. Well, I wish I could turn your microphone on and listen to you roar like a lion. Dennis using a desktop. Claire can see a chair and a Christmas tree. Oh my. Claire, you need to talk to whoever is organizing your Christmas tree and tell them that it's not even December yet. Put that Christmas tree back in the shed or the cupboard or wherever it is. A mat and a mirror is lovely. Thank you very much. A coffee shop. Okay, lovely. So thank you very much. And I can see there are many people from, similar to yesterday, we've got people from all around the world, not just within the region of Asia. So thank you so much again for giving up your time. This kind of activity is something that you can do with your students as well if you're teaching online. While you're waiting for people to arrive, just to engage them, and you can mix it up with things that you can see or things that you can do, such as roar like a lion, or things that you can see out of the window, for example, rather than in your room. So have a play around with this kind of activity just to warm people up. All right, and the next thing I want to do is find out a little bit about your context. So where you're, or what kind of levels that you're teaching. Are you teaching face-to-face, online, and what age groups you're teaching? So for this one, I'm just going to open up a survey. So you should be able to see a survey. And can you start answering questions in your survey? Give me a second. I think there might be an issue. Can you see the survey in the window? Just quickly check. Okay. Whoops. Excuse me. Okay. I apologize for that. I think there was an issue with my survey. So can you just type in your answers again, please? Thank you. Now I can see it moving quite nicely. Okay, lovely. Keep it going. I'll leave this open just for another 30 seconds or so. So keep it going. We're looking like we're moving towards secondary and adult, which is good. Today's session is mainly focused on secondary, although you will be able to adapt some of the ideas and some of the resources we have available for all of these segments. So if you're not teaching secondary, don't worry, you'll still have an opportunity to see some of the resources. Few more seconds. We've got 48 out of 146 at the moment. So if you haven't voted, if you haven't put it in the survey, stick your answer in there quickly. I'm going to close it soon. Be nice if we can get over 50%. All right, let me just make a few comments on the answers here then. So, as I said, today's session looking mainly at secondary, some secondary material. We're going to look at a book called Gateway. But if you are teaching adults, if you are teaching primary or pre-primary, then a lot of the resources we have available are also equally as available for those age groups as well. And then looking at the teaching context, it seems quite even in terms of teaching online, face-to-face, and then both online and face-to-face. So it's pretty evenly matched there. So let's go back to our slide. So that's interesting to find out. I'll just open my presentation again. So I'm just interested to find out a little bit more about you and your context and what you're teaching in. And it's interesting to see that the fact that the context you're teaching in, online, face-to-face, and both, is very, very similar. It's good to see that the face-to-face teaching is so high, and it's nice to know that people are getting back into the classroom. In my context in Thailand, we've been in the classroom now for a number of months, which has been really, really great to see. More importantly, great for the students to get back and see their friends and see their teachers again. Certainly, it's great for me as a parent, not having to not having my daughter around while I'm in my work day. So things are slowly getting back to normal, and hopefully we will be doing face-to-face training like this. As John mentioned, our Macmillan days are normally face-to-face with lots of teachers and lots of interaction, and hopefully in the future, it won't be long in the future before we can do this again face-to-face. All right, so today's session is, one second. So today's session is all about our ready for any scenario, being flexible in our approach to teaching. Some of us may be teaching face-to-face, some of us online, or even both in a hybrid model, and moving from face-to-face to online and then potentially back again has meant that students and teachers need to be flexible. Now, my own experience and observations have shown that students, I should say, are much better at managing this change. And I think it's because they get lots of support with this change. They get lots of help from their teachers, from their parents, to help them manage the change from online to face-to-face and back again. However, for teachers, it can be a challenge because, like I said, you're not just managing yourself, you're managing your families, you're managing your students at the same time. And getting those to understand what it's like to do this online, then face-to-face and back again can be a challenge. So that's why we at Macmillan Education have come up with a fully flexible approach, ready for any scenario that will make sure that you have the tools and the resources that you need to help you manage this change. As I said, today's session is mainly focused on teens, and this session will show you the available resources for secondary teachers who are teaching face-to-face and or online using the Gateway second edition course book materials. And I'll show you how you can support your learners in achieving their goals in all modalities. Now, we will look initially at flipping the classroom. We're also going to look at, we're going to look at two things when we flip the classroom. One is a grammar lesson of flipping a classroom, and one is looking at a more a life skills lesson, which is a reading or a listening lesson that you can flip the classroom with. We're going to look at the online workbooks that are available for our students and teachers. These are really, really super resources that can really help you as a teacher monitor students' progress, as well as engaging them outside of the classroom. We have a test generator that I want to show you that will help you save time and improve the quality of the assessments that you give to your students. And then finally, at the end, we're going to look at some ready-made lesson plans for online teaching. And we're going to look at some ideas how you can take your course book online. But these activities will also be very, very effective in a face-to-face class as well. So let's get going. So before we begin the full session, looking at flipping the classroom, I want to show you what we can offer you at Macmillan Education. So if you teach remotely, or you would like to add an online learning element to your face-to-face classes, kind of future-proofing yourself, because who knows what's going to happen in the future. Although I think at Macmillan we had some idea, because of the resources we already have available, we're very, very effective in combating the challenge to work online. We have reconfigured and enhanced our most popular courses with digital components and making them ready for any scenario. So we have the print books, of course, and these can be used at home or in the classroom. We have the digital student books, and these have a customized learning experience, and these can be compatible with your school platform. We have flexible ebooks, which are similar to the digital student books, and these have they show you the course book on the screen with the embedded audio and video features. We have gamified online practice for our primary courses, but for our secondary courses, we have adult courses. We have these really cool, which I'm going to show you, digital and online workbooks for self-study or for homework. And then we have the Students Resource Center with additional resources, including all the audio and video. So this is what students can see. Now for teachers, we have the Flexible Teachers eBooks. Now these are obviously for lesson preparation. You can put them on the screen. You don't need to carry around the teacher's book with you. Maybe you're not able to go to the office where the teacher's book is. So these ebooks are available for you to plan lessons wherever you are at any time, and are easy to manage and take around with you. We have the classroom presentation kit, sometimes known as the teacher's presentation kit. And this is a projectable online or offline student's book with all the video, audio, embedded and interactive activities and flashcards and this kind of thing. I'll show you a little example of that in a moment. We have the online practice and online workbooks with homework setting functions, automatic marking and tracking of students, the test generator to assess progress, and then the Teachers Resource Center with tons of extra activities and tips, as well as the website, which is where all this information has come from. So let's take a look at the first thing we're going to look at, which is the classic print books and the interactive digital student books. So there are 7 levels here of Gateway. And before we begin, I'll tell you a little story about Gateway. I'm a huge fan of this book, and not because I work for Macmillan, although that obviously helps. But before I worked for Macmillan, I worked for the British Council in Thailand. And one of my jobs was to manage the secondary program in the British Council in Thailand. The books that we were using were very old, so we went through a whole process of selecting some new material. And it was then I realized the quality of these materials because we had a vigorous selection process where we got a number of materials from different publishers, and we asked students and we asked teachers to use them, to assess the materials, and Gateway came out on top. in 3 of the levels, particularly the higher levels where students were looking to take exams. So I can really vouch for these materials, and through these materials really made me have a strong connection with Macmillan education. And then, luckily enough, I was able to come and work for Macmillan in a full-time capacity. So it's kind of a full circle for me in terms of this material. And that's why I'm very excited in talking about these materials. It has a very clear and logical structure. It develops grammar, vocabulary, and the 4 skills in a balanced way. Students can really instantly use the language in real-life communication, but they do need some help with this, and they need help in how they practice and the opportunities for practice. And I'm going to show you a key element for giving students the time and the opportunities to practice. There's a comprehensive and easy to implement approach to life skills. Now, you may have heard life skills being mentioned before, and they often are, but today's day and age, they are super important. We really need to help our young learners and our teenagers develop these life skills if they're going to thrive in the 21st century world. It's changed enormously in 2020, and we need to help them with these skills, both personal life skills and then social, outgoing life skills as well. And in addition, we have exam preparation, which involves giving students opportunities to take or to practice common exam questions, which helps them when they leave their schools to go into international exams and have to take those high stakes exams that students are often worried and scared about. So that's a little bit about the material. So let's look now at what makes it special. So these are some of the key areas we're going to look at today. And you can see the areas in red there are the areas that I'm going to focus on. So one of the great things about this material, and one of the things you can see as a teacher when you use this material, is that it has been developed by a teacher, someone who practices their teaching every day, someone who works with teenagers every day and uses their first-hand experience to provide practical solutions for their students. Their materials are motivating in that respect as well. We also have the innovative flipped classroom materials. And these are grammar presentations presented by the author and allow teachers more time to focus on those real-life communication. And we're going to look in that a step-by-step stage approach of how to flip the classroom in a moment. And I think here we can really see where Macmillan has an eye on the future. Obviously, no one was able to predict a global pandemic where people were expected to immediately teach from home or teach online. But having these flipped resources certainly helped those teachers who were using Gateway to immediately start working from home with the resources that they need and to teach online smoothly and easily. Life skills, video and tasks, again, as I mentioned, just to recap on those. So personal and physical well-being is one of the areas we focus on. And obviously, our teenagers at the moment do need to focus on their personal and physical well-being. Often students, and I know from my own experience with my daughter, who's been studying from home, has missed a lot of physical education and has certainly needed to supplement that at home, which has been a challenge for her. So this kind of these life skills that we're teaching children to take control of their own physical well-being, their own citizenship and social skills is very important. And then, as I mentioned, the exam style activities, super useful for when they move forward in their academic careers. And then loads and loads of resources that are available for you. All right. So let's get into some of the materials. Let's get into some of the things that you can actually use in your classrooms now and some techniques. So the first thing we're going to look at is the TPK, otherwise known as the Teacher's Presentation Kit. I think I have made a typo. So let's quickly check. Can you see a typo in my slide there? I'm going to check your teaching knowledge now. Where is the typo? There you go. Thank you very much for correcting my typo. It should have a apostrophe, yeah. Thank you. So the first thing you're going to look at when you have these resources available to you, and I think the first thing you're going to look at is the teacher's presentation kit. So this teacher's presentation kit is what we call a page-faithful version of the student's book with all the resources that you need in one place. It can be used online or offline. You need to download it one time, and then you can access it offline. And it's a presentation tool with interactive activities, flashcards, and all the audio and all the video files in one place. So you don't need to mess around with CDs or DVDs or asking the teacher to use the class. Where are the CDs? You don't need to do that. Everything is in one place. You can zoom, you can zoom out, you can really use it effectively as a classroom management tool to show students where they should be in the class. One of the elements of the teacher's presentation kit apostrophe are videos, and you're likely to find these very useful both online and face-to-face. And let me show you one of the videos or one of the elements of the videos that I have, and this is the flipped classroom. So I'm going to throw it over to you. I've been talking for 25 minutes now. I would like you to tell me what is the flipped classroom. Now, don't Google, all right? I don't want any big wordy Google definitions. I want you just to tell me in a sentence what you understand by the flipped classroom. And while you do that, I'm just going to get a drink of water. Okay, I will tell you, don't you worry, I promise. I like that. Students become the teachers. That's yeah. Having the home as the learning, very nice. Opposite to the reverse, teachers and students learn. Blended learning, Dennis, yeah. Okay, a few more, 30 more seconds. Here we go. Students need to study before the lesson. Well, win role play. Okay, providing materials before the class. It's not just the video lesson, or we can use video to help that. I like that. Homework first, teaching later. Nice, succinct. Yeah, preparing them with material. Okay, good. It's certainly not a traditional classroom. That's definitely not. It's definitely not a traditional classroom. It's okay. Students work first and teachers work second. That's good. Yeah. Okay, I think that's really nice, April. If you look at April's, that's a really nice definition. Now, let me show you my definitions of a flipped classroom, and I want you to tell me which one of these definitions you think is correct. So I'll give you a minute just to read these three definitions, and you tell me which is the correct definition. Okay, have a second to think about which is the correct definition. I'll give you a moment. I'll give you a minute just to think about this. So we're getting quite a mixture. Quite a few C's. An A, B, and C. An A and C. C and A. That's where I used to buy all my clothes. Alrighty, well, let me give you the answer. Mr. Chris Akabusi is in the room. That's nice to see. So the correct answer is, if you wrote A, you are correct. Well done. If you wrote B, you are also correct. And if you wrote C, you too are correct. They are all correct. So if you wrote A, B, and C, which a couple of people did, I'm not going to scroll back up and find their names. I would if we could give you a prize, but I can't give you a prize. But well done. If you got all three, you are correct. Yes, they are all correct. They're all pretty good definitions of what a flipped classroom is. What a flipped classroom isn't, it isn't a traditional approach to teaching, as some of you mentioned earlier. It's about giving students a chance to really, really understand and take their own time to understand the content before allowing more time for teachers to practice this content in the class, or practice using this content in the class. It's not a theory of learning, all right? It's not a theory, but it's a way of learning. It's based on a theory of learning, and this is now a good time to revisit an old friend of ours, which I'm sure you've seen before. If you haven't, you definitely need to do some more research on this theory of learning, which I'm going to show you. But it is our old friend Bloom's taxonomy. So Bloom's taxonomy has these, what we call these cognitive elements within this cognitive domain, this thinking domain. So we have at the bottom of our pyramid, remember. Everything starts with remember, then moves up to understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So these ways of thinking are different. The first two levels, remember, understand, we can call them the lower order thinking skills. And then we have the higher order thinking skills moving up through our pyramid. Now, I want you to think about these thinking skills, these lower order and higher order thinking skills. And when I take you through the stages of this flipped classroom approach, I want you to think about where this Bloom's taxonomy, where this theory fits into this approach of teaching. And then at the end of it, we will look together and I'll show you, hopefully, or you can see clearly how this approach to teaching is based in the theory of an educational theory as well. So before we do that, though, let me test your ability to understand Bloom's taxonomy. So in the chat box, what I'd like you to do is match the cognitive element to the definition. So number one, remember, matches with A, B, C, D, E, or F. What do you think? Number one, remember. What are we doing when we remember? Yes, we're D, aren't we? We are recalling information. So I'm going to give you 1 minute in the chat box. Can you write your answers? Number two, number three, or just think about it yourself. Number two, number three. If you don't want to write in the chat box, that's fine. Write it on a piece of paper. But can you match my cognitive elements with the items on the left-hand side? I think you only need a minute. It's like smart. Okay, another 20 seconds. and then we'll have a look together. So let's have a look together. So I think looking at your answers, pretty much you are on the right path. So number one, remember, obviously we mentioned that as being D. So if you're thinking about a reading text, what would be a remember question? Would be those questions such as what, who, when, where. These questions would test whether someone remembers something. Number two, understand, is A. So this is where if you understand something, you're able to explain the ideas and concepts. So number two would be questions such as why and how. Number three, apply. This is F. So this is using information in another familiar situation. So if we think about flipping a grammar class, you might remember what the grammar point that you're teaching, you understand how to use it, and then you apply it to your own, you personalize it, and you maybe come up with some of the grammar, some of the sentences to apply to your own personal life. Analyze, number four, is C. So this is where you now start to break up information, start to understand relationships. So maybe in a reading text, when you're analyzing a reading text, you might be looking at words that fit into different topic areas of the reading that you're doing, different paragraphs. You might be looking at matching different vocabulary groups within a lexical set, for example. Number five, to evaluate, is E, which is justifying your decision. So this is where you start to then come up with your own ideas of how a text, for example, might make you feel. And then number six, where you're doing something completely new, which is B, generating new ideas. So from the context that you're learning in, that you're then expected to think critically or creatively to come up with something else, something new, something different. If you're teaching primary, for example, you might be reading a story and you have children think about putting themselves into the story. If you're teaching a text about ecology, you might have students try and invent a new way of recycling or something like that. So using different higher order thinking skills. So that's a little bit about Bloom, and we'll think about Bloom as we move through our flipped classroom. So how is the flipped classroom done in Gateway? Well, it's supported, flipped classroom is supported by these videos, and these videos you can see in the icon with the arrow going round and round again. Click on this video, or this icon I should say, this will take you to a video of David Spencer, the author, and he is presenting a language point. Now, what to do here. Part of your classroom management will be explaining to the students exactly what to do and training them initially on how to use the flipped classroom approach and how to click on those icons. Now I'm seeing the internet is a bit unstable, so I'm going to stop for a second. Can you let me know if you can hear me? I think I have frozen. Can I just tap my camera? All right, I think my platform's frozen. I just want to check a moment because I don't want to continue. If you can hear it, apologize for this, but I'm just going to send a message to my team. It's been frozen. And type chat box. So connection lost. All right, let me okay, how are we doing now? Are we back on? Back online? Lovely. Let me okay, great, fantastic. If it happens again, I'll turn off my camera, but I think it was just probably a glitch. Maybe the somebody, the next door neighbor's pinching my Wi-Fi. I hope not. But if it happens again, I'll turn off the camera and we'll carry on. Okay, lovely. So the flipped classroom in Gateway. So it's signposted by this icon here, and clicking on this video will take you to a video of, clicking on this icon will take you to a video of David Spencer, who is the author, presenting a language. As I said, I'm not sure if you heard me though, but as I said, your student's going to need some training here. They're going to need you to help them point out exactly what they have to do and explain clearly what they have to do. It's not enough to say, click on this video at home, do the activity, and then we'll check it when we come back. You need to really take them through it the first time that you use this. So clicking on that will take you to the video, and here's a still of the video, and you will understand, I am sure, what we have just experienced. I'm not going to show you the video in today's session because of those bandwidth issues. I'm just going to show you a still. So here's a picture of David Spencer, and students at home will click on the link in their digital student book or in their student resource center, and they will watch the video. And while they watch the video, they will complete the comprehension check. So here we have a print version of the comprehension that they will mark it with their pen, or if they have the digital version, they can actually complete this interactively and check their answers that way. While they are doing the grammar activities, the comprehension checks, they can stop the video, of course. They're in control. They're in total control. They can stop the video. They can watch it again. If they don't quite catch something, if they don't understand, they can then watch it again. They can pause it. They can get mom and dad to help them. Okay, network problems. I'm going to turn my camera off then. See how that works. Okay, turn my camera off. We'll see how we get on now. And they can then check their grammar using the print version by looking in the back of their book, or they can look at the digital grammar reference, which is also highlighted by an icon. So if they click on this icon, that will pop up into their or on their screen, and they can then check the grammar. So they've got three different tools here. They've got the video, they've got the comprehension check, and they've got the grammar that they can do by themselves. The key here is that they're in control. They can watch the video when they want, they can do the activity, spend as much time doing it as they need to, and they're not controlled by the teacher explaining to them what they have to do. This is a key area of what John was mentioning yesterday, of differentiation. Giving students an opportunity to study for themselves is a way of differentiating their learning, so they can spend a little bit of time or a lot of time on their grammar presentation. Teachers also have access to additional resources that students might want to complete. So here we have the Teachers Resource Center, and then within that there are worksheets that teachers can access. So here you can see the worksheet for the flipped classroom, and there's a beautiful A4 PDF with extra activities that students can check to make sure that they understand the content that they're studying. And then after that, I need to just check again that I'm okay. Daisy, am I okay? Daisy, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. It's just got people that are typing now, so I just need to check that everything's all right. Sorry. I'm going to be quite paranoid about this now, obviously. So I'll keep checking in from time to time. Or maybe you can just, maybe every minute you can just say, we can still hear you. That would be very useful. All right. And then stage 5, we have the teacher quickly checking the understanding in the class. So this is now back in the classroom. Students have completed stage 4 at home, or stage 1 to 4. Stage 5, back in the classroom. The teacher will or back, if whether it's face-to-face or online, it doesn't matter. The teacher can quickly check the understanding and then give them the opportunities to practice. Now, you can put students into breakout rooms. If you're teaching online, you can, if you're teaching face-to-face, then put them into pairs, into groups, and walk around and monitor, or go into your breakout rooms and monitor. Now, initially, you will have some problems. I know this from practicing in the past, but stay with it. The problems that you will have is, and I'm sure you're going to ask me, is how do we get students to do their homework? Okay, that's the key thing, right? Well, if we think about this as not being homework, but by being additional learning, I think if you start giving it as homework, then students do see it as traditional homework, and are potentially not going to do their homework. So you need to change the way that you talk about homework, and how you talk about the flipped classroom. So changing the terminology will help you to manage better. Also, you have a collective responsibility with a flipped classroom. If, for example, I don't do my homework and everybody else has done their homework, the teacher then has to do some more teaching, which all the other students know, just for me. And that's not a really nice feeling to have. So we need to make sure that students know that if they don't do their homework, it doesn't just affect them, it affects the whole class. So we look now at the life skills videos and the tasks within the life skills videos, and how we can flip these this part of the lesson. This lesson is perfect for the flipped classroom. It involves listening to content or reading the content before establishing your own ideas and then presenting them to the class in a group. It follows Bloom's perfectly, and it allows them plenty of time to really be able to establish what they think. This, however, does follow a slightly different stage of process. And the thing for you as a teacher will be coming to terms with the way you present a lesson. So for a lesson like this, you need to start the lesson by introducing the topic at the end of your lesson, in order for students to then follow this by doing the work at home. So for example, in this lesson, you might do the following. So stage 1 of this approach is to use the, thank you very much, Dorcas, it's very important to me. is using the objectives that you can see on the left-hand side and the key concepts. You might want to activate the schemata and to introduce the topic and stimulate interest by brainstorming ideas around this ecological footprint. You would then do this as it is in the student's book and put students into groups if they're in face-to-face, or in pairs if you're working face-to-face. Or you might put them into breakout rooms if you're doing this online. And students would then discuss the issues before then bringing this back to a class discussion and some concept check questions, understanding. After that, you would then explain what the students need to do at home and set a time limit. So stage 2, after introducing and activating schemata, finding out what students already know in the classroom, all is gone. Uh-oh. Okay, guys, I think we're just going to have to kind of battle through this. I've just talked to some other people just to discuss with them about turning everything that's using Wi-Fi off, and we're all good. Okay, good. You can hear me in Egypt then. That's great. Fantastic. Okay, so let's keep going. So stage 2. So we've activated the schemata, we've found out what students already know, we've stimulated their interest, and we've done a discussion task at home. And now we're moving this, thank you, and now we're moving this back to the home. So we're sending this home now. So this is a task that students would then do at home. Again, by clicking on the icon that you can see here, they can always listen as well as read the text. So if their listening is strong, but their reading is not so strong, then they can choose how they receive the input from the lesson. This is a key thing about flipped learning. It's giving them the opportunity, giving them the chance to take control of their learning. Now, with teenage students, this might not be that attractive initially, but once they get used to it, they're going to find this really cool, because those stronger students are not going to have to wait for weaker students to complete the reading. They can do the reading quickly and then maybe move on and do something else. And with those weaker students, they're not going to feel too bad about taking longer to do a reading activity, because no one's there to watch them or see them take longer. So it's a real win-win for our students in terms of differentiation. So they complete the input tasks. And there are more input tasks here in terms of the engaging videos that we have. We also have additional resources for these videos, similar to the flipped classroom resources for the actual grammar input. We also have resources available for the videos as well. And these are full lesson plans if you want to use them as full lesson plans, or you can just give them to students to complete. Now, with these, with all of these, so with the reading activities or the listening activities and the video activities, you need to check that the students have completed them and understand them. So you might get them to send them to you, take a photo, send it to you, maybe put it on a shared drive, whatever way you share with your students the materials, or hand it in before the lesson starts if you're teaching face-to-face. So the teacher can check who's done the work and how much they understand what they were assigned to do. Then stage 4, the teacher will quickly check understanding. So we'll go through the previous input quickly and check it, and then the rest of the lesson can be spent practicing that language in the classroom communicatively, so completing the life task. Now, the life tasks are super because they look at the 4 C's. They practice communication, they practice collaboration, they practice creativity and critical thinking. And now you as a teacher will need to consider how you do these kind of tasks online. Some will be easy to do, such as making a poster. You can share an online whiteboard, for example, in order to do that. But making a video might be a bit more of a challenge, and you might need to think a little bit more outside of the box when it comes to actually presenting these materials. So we had a couple of issues there, but I hope that you managed to take in what I was talking about and kind of linked some of it to Bloom. So I would like to play a little game with you now, and it's called Same as Del. So what are the benefits of flipping the classroom? Can you write any benefits that you might perceive from what I've just told you? And if you do, you get a point if you have the same benefits as me. Yeah, great for differentiation. Yeah, and motivating for students. Yeah, and initially motivation might be low, but I think if you keep going, if you keep with it, the motivation will get higher because students can see that they will take control. Independent learning, yeah, active and engaged, definitely. It is much more motivating if you can study at your own time. And obviously, you're not going to do this for every lesson that you teach. But I think if you mix it up, you will see the benefits of that. So let's see if you were thinking on a similar line to me. So here are my benefits. So obviously there's a time factor. If you are studying asynchronously, then you've got more time for synchronous learning in the online classroom. Students initially might think it's a lot of work. And if they do, remind them about how much time they spend learning English during the week. Break up the week into how many hours there are in a week and show them how many hours they study English. And then there's a lot more opportunity for them to study if they just push themselves a little bit more. They take charge of their own learning. As I said, if they don't get it, again, this is the differentiation aspect of things. Makes it easier for you as a teacher to give personalized help. Because you have more time in the classroom, you're not spent presenting material to students, you have more time to talk to students and find out exactly what areas they might need more help on. Technical issues, yeah, as we've seen today with bandwidth can be an issue. So if they have the videos at home and are using them online at home, it makes it easier for you not to present them like this. And then increases HOTS in the classroom. So with that in mind, why are the colors different? If I look at Bloom's taxonomy, we can see orange areas and green areas. What do orange areas tell us? What do green areas tell us? So tell me what they tell us though. What does the orange area mean and what does the green area mean? Okay, so lower order thinking skills and green is higher. So think about it now in terms of the flipped classroom. So try and put this together with the flipped classroom. Green is to do practice in class. Very, very nice, yes. Perfect, yes. So the yellow or I can see, maybe you can see yellow, I can see orange. So yellow areas exactly are the input, is the asynchronous learning. So the learning that the students will do at home. So this is flipping it so that the students are doing the grammar presentation or the input at home, and the green is the things that the students will do in the classroom. So we're flipping our classroom, green in the classroom, orange at home. If you want to know more, we have loads of resources. We have YouTube clips at Macmillan Education ELT site on YouTube, as well as a PDF guide, which I'm going to share with you right now. So if you go to the event board, you will see, or there's a link, I hope, on your screen now telling you that I have shared the file. So please feel free to click on the event board, shared files, and click and download the instant guide to the flipped classroom, which you can see right here as well. Now, because of our glitch in time, I'm going to go a little bit quicker, and we're going to talk now about the online workbook. So one resource that, although the online workbook is not new, it's been around for a few years, we have seen a massive increase in usage of the online workbook, and it is a fantastic resource, which is invaluable to keep learners and teachers motivated and able to study effectively online. The online workbook provides interactive versions of the activities in the second edition print workbook, and it has all the audio and all the video for the flipped classroom. It marks the students' work, it collates them into a grade book, which teachers can then look at. They can manage multiple classes, they can set tasks, and they can monitor the progress of their students. And the activities follow the student's book in terms of the language that is practiced. So let's have a look at an example of an online workbook activity. So here you can see an example. This is don't go yet, I haven't finished. There's more to share. Here is an example of an online workbook activity. Students complete the activity and then they submit their answers. Now, if their answers are wrong, it doesn't matter. They can do the activity again, they can try again, and it will keep the correct answers, and then they correct the wrong answers. This is a really nice way. They've got many opportunities to get the answers to correct. And then these marks are sent directly to the grade book, where the teachers can monitor the progress of the students. Thank you, Gad. And then the online workbook for the teacher, you can see here what the grade book looks like for the teacher. So multiple classes can be managed in one location, and you can also lock content. So you can have students only do Unit 1, and then they're not allowed to go any further until you open it. This allows you to manage the platform better and manage your class easier. If you have students allowed to do anything they want to, it becomes very difficult for you to monitor the progress in that respect. It's easy to read, easy to follow. The progress can be monitored at a glance. So you can see here the progress of one student. This is one student who has done one activity. And you can see the first attempt, they got 80%. The second attempt, they got 80. And then the last attempt, the third attempt, they finally got 100%. And on the right-hand side, you can see, you can monitor exactly what questions they got wrong or right. So real detail about what your students are doing with their online workbooks. You can send them messages, you can notify them when homework is to be done and when results are available. And the system will automatically notify you when there is some marking for you to do as well. So lots of benefits of the online workbook. And here are some of those benefits. So they can study on their smartphones, they can study on tablets, computers, when they want to study. And because you can monitor the progress in one place, you can see if students are struggling with certain elements. So that formative assessment is really important with the online workbook as well. And if you want to use this as your own assessment reports or records, you can actually download everything as an Excel file and then use the data as you see fit, maybe within your learning management system. Okay, so we're going okay now. I think the sound's getting, or the system's working okay. And we're going to move on to the next really useful tool that's going to help you and save you time and improve, more importantly, improve the quality of your teaching and particularly your assessments. So I'm going to ask you a question now. I'm going to put a survey up. So how much time do you spend writing and marking assessments? So give me your ideas. It's good to see. So most people about the right amount of time. Too much. I'm looking in the chat box as well. Too much time. Too much time. And there's a question there about how do I get the online workbook? Well, I'll send you, at the end of the session, you'll see some links to information about how you can contact our staff and get some information. All right, so about the right amount of time is coming out strong, which is good to see. But then we have too much time, and trust me, you don't want to know, but not enough time as well, possibly there. So maybe you don't spend enough time doing the assessment, potentially because you don't have the time to do it. That could be a reason. So let me just end that and go back to the presentation. And this is me. Well, it's not really me, but it kind of is me when I was writing assessment tasks before I realized that I didn't need to write assessment tasks. Now, I'm going to show you in the past an assessment that similar to what I would have written in the past. And it says, match the words to the definitions. Be careful, there are more words than definitions. So in the past, I used to write assessments, and a lot of time was spent doing this. I had to then share them with the teaching team that I was in. We read through each other's assessments. We corrected them. We rewrote them. We had more meetings. It was time consuming and it was demoralizing, to say the least. So here's an example that I've written. First of all, can you just do the assessment yourself? Do this little test yourself. You don't have to write in the chat box the answers. Don't worry about that. But just do it yourself for 30 seconds and see how you get on. Don't worry, I'm not talking. All right, so you started doing it, so great. So this is a good example of a bad assessment. The first question I have is, actually, let me look at something that's good in this example before I look at the bad things. So why do I have more words than definitions? What's the reason for having more words than definitions? Makes it harder, potentially, yeah. More of a challenge. Yes. The reason I have more words than definitions is if I have 5 words and 5 definitions, if I get 1 incorrect, then I automatically get 2 incorrect. All right. So it's not fair. So I need to have more opportunities for students to get at least 4 out of 5 correct. So this is quite a good thing about the test. Now, there's a problem with 3 of these items. Number 1, what's wrong with number 1? There's a big problem with number 1. Does anybody know what might be the issue with number 1? Why is this a bad example? Why is number 1 a bad example? Okay, that's a good answer, actually, Lucita. Yeah, you could argue that. It's not the answer that I have, but it's definitely an answer and a correct answer. Part of speech is different. There you go. Yes. Number 1 is the only verb. All right. So all you have to do is match to from to enjoy and to get pleasure, and you have the answer. All right. So there's nothing you need to do except to match the to and the to. And if you make a good guess, you'll get the answer. So it's the only verb. Number 3. What's wrong with number 3? It's too long, yeah. It's also too complicated. It's too long, too complicated. The words in the definition might be more complicated than the words that you're trying to elicit. So it's too long and too complicated. And then number 5 is, I'll tell you what's wrong with number 5, just to save some time. It's too short. It also requires me to know the meaning of the word cheap. If I don't know the word cheap, then I cannot get this answer correct. So I need a little bit more information. So this is just to show you how what looks like a good example of a test is actually a very poor example and has lots and lots of problems with it. How can we help you with your assessments? Well, we have this wonderful app called the Test Generator. The Test Generator is an online app that provides pre-prepared or an opportunity to create your own tests by selecting pre-prepared activities. You can mix and match your tests together. All the assessments have been tried and tested, so they don't have any of the reasons that I mentioned before to confuse our students, and all typos and other issues with writing assessment tasks have been taken into consideration. You can select ready-to-go tests. So there are tests for every single unit, and we have standard tests and higher tests. So 2 different tests for each unit, depending on the level of your students. We have the answer keys, of course, all ready to go. Just 1 click and you're away. You can print those out and use them. And you can also create your own tests as well. So creating your own tests is very easy. You have a list of items that you can choose, and you can select, say within the grammar item, you can choose 3 activities. So if you want to create 2 tests that are the same, you would create a test that has 2 grammar items, and then the next test, test B, would have 2 different grammar items. 1 the same, and that would be different. The reading tests have 2 questions or 2 types of questions, which you can mix and match to create different tests. And this is important when it comes to getting students to copy, or getting them not to copy, I should say. Now, how do we do this online? How do we give them a test online? Well, I was thinking about this myself, and I asked a couple of colleagues who have been doing this, and it's a challenge. If you have a print copy of a paper and you're teaching online, how can you be sure they're not just going to copy? Well, I've come up with a few different tips. I think for unit tests, these tests are what we call they're summative, but they're also going to act as a formative assessment. So what you need to do, first of all, create as many papers as you can, which you can do using the test generator. If you use a multiple choice answer format, you can have different answers. So you can have an A answer and a B answer. And actually the test generator within each paper puts the questions in different order, which also helps with copying. You can control the students, so you can have them turn on their webcams and make sure that you can monitor their behavior so that you can see if they're moving away from their desk or if they're looking somewhere else. And then finally, you just have to trust your learners and check against what you already know about them and whether their assessment results match what their formative results would have been. It really is a superb tool, and it really is a tool that will save you time. But like I said, not just save you time, just improve the quality of the product that you're giving to the students. Okay, we're okay for time. So let's just finish with the showing you the lesson plans. And like I said, if you want to know more about anything with these products, these resources, I'm going to give you an email at the end that you can contact, and also a website as well that you can contact. So the final thing we're going to look at is actually our lesson planning. So here you can see some sample lesson plans that we have on the website. These are 2 lesson plans that you can download. Actually, this is the vocabulary lesson plan, and you can download this or these lesson plans and use them as templates for you to follow if you're teaching online. They've taken a lesson of Gateway and adapted it to teach online. And you can use these and adapt these for the context and any future lessons of Gateway that you're teaching. And if you're not teaching Gateway, match them to what you are teaching and see if you can fit any of the activities or the ideas of moving things online to your own context. I'm also going to share with you a really cool document that's been put together, which is the Gateway Guide to Distance Learning. So look out for that right now, which I'm going to share right now. That's in the event board, in the shared files, and also should be coming up on your screen. Whoops. And you can also copy that QR code, click on that link, and you'll be good to go. This is a really nice document which will help you think about giving you a template of how to teach asynchronously, so giving students work at home, and also synchronously when you're studying face-to-face online. And the last thing we're going to look at is our ideas to take our course book online. So I've got 3 different ideas. I just thought I'd come up with 3 ideas to let you go away with. Maybe you'd like to use these ideas with your classes if you are working online. So the first one is using our is brainstorming vocabulary. This is what we have to do at the start of every lesson. Usually we're brainstorming, working with some vocabulary, and then building that up with our grammar, and then moving that into a reading activity, for example. So how can we take this online? Well, we can use our old friend Menti. So you've got 2 minutes, only 2 minutes, to follow this instructions. Go to Menti and type some adjectives that describe your personal qualities. So I can already see that today we have some very smart people, some very educated people. So go to this website, please, and start adding your ideas. 2 minutes. We've only got 2 minutes for this one. Let's see if we can get some words up quickly. Type them into the Menti if you can, please. I'm going to share my screen. So here we can see, hopefully, you can see the screen building up with our lovely adjectives. Now, using a Menti, I'm sure you've seen this before, used this before. It's a wonderful tool to motivate students because they can see it in real life. They can see it happening live. And it's really cool to watch this. I type in a word, it's on the screen, it's building up my word cloud with my classroom. I can also filter this so that we don't have any swear words, and if students want to play around with their language, they're not allowed to. You can do this in face-to-face classes as well. Get the students to come out with their own, get their phones out and or laptops or whatever they're using in the classroom to build on this. So it's a really nice tool that you can see is building up nicely. Now, I'll let that go for a moment before I go back to my presentation. And I'm going to give you some ideas of how you can actually use the data that you have. So, word clouds are cool, but how can we use them effectively? So we can personalize. So with those words that you put on the board there, I might then ask you to think of 5 words that you can see to describe somebody in the classroom, someone, your friend, a family member, and start to personalize the information that students have. You might want to pick 5 words and write the opposites, or pick 5 words and write synonyms for those words. You might want to pick some occupations and match the words to jobs. So a nurse is kind and friendly and supportive. You might want to pick 3 adjectives that you don't have but you would like to have, and 3 words that you don't know. You make a note of and you find the meaning. So there's loads of ways you can exploit these word clouds. What's really nice about them is they're generated by the students. You as a teacher can add the words that you want to present to the students to make sure that those words are in the word clouds as well. The next idea is the jigsaw readings idea. So often in Gateway, you have a lot of course books. You have what we call opportunities to do jigsaw readings. So we have here an A, B, and a C reading activity. So what you would do is put students into groups of 3 and give them a number, 1, 2, and 3. So number 1 would read A, number 2, B, and number 3 would read C. Then you'd give them a link to a Google Sheet or to a Google document, some online platform. And while the students are reading, they would write questions on this platform. And then after a time limit, the students would then go into the platform and answer each other's questions. So you really personalize the reading in terms of the language students are practicing. And there's lots and lots of opportunities for collaboration with these kind of jigsaw reading ideas. And here's an example of a Google document that I've created very quickly in order for students to share their ideas. So here you have David is 1, Susie 2, or A, B, and C. David's written a question here. What's the person doing in photo A? You write another question here, another question, another question. Susie's doing the same thing. Johan's doing the same thing. And then at the end, they would answer each other's questions. So it's a really nice way of collaborating with each other and sharing the reading activity with each other. And then finally, the last thing I'd like to show you is our, whoops, gone too far. Our noughts and crosses, our tic-tac-toe flashcard activity. All these flashcards are available in the teacher's presentation kit. And I'll quickly share that with you right now because it's really cool. And I think you'll find it very useful if you have this. So here you can see the teacher's presentation kit. If I click here, I have my vocabulary tool, and I have jobs and work, and I can show my students, make it bigger if I want to. I can show my students the vocabulary that we're studying. I can firefighter. I can click the play button and it will say it, or I can actually show them the text as well. So this vocabulary tool is very useful both in face-to-face and online classes. And then to practice that, I hope you got to see the vocab tool then. And then to practice that, we can use the tic-tac-toe activity, or the noughts and crosses, as we call it in the UK. Pull up my PowerPoint again. Whoops. Now, in order to adapt this tic-tac-toe activity, we can come up with some versions. So tic-tac-toe or noughts and crosses, as you know, students have to make a line of 3 and they take it in turns. Now they can play this in a class as a group, or they can play it together in pairs, depending on how you want to manage it. If you want to have the square here, if you want to put your cross here, you must spell the word. All right, that's one idea. Quite simple. If you want to adapt that, you can have comparatives. So you can compare the opposites. So the vet is the opposite in the board of the police officer. And you would then say the vet is kinder than the police officer. And they would have to justify their decisions. If you choose the one in the middle, they can choose anybody to compare with. Sentences to describe the occupation. So if they choose vet, they have to give me a sentence to say this. A vet is someone who looks after animals, for example, and they would go through that in order to win the square. You could describe the personal quality. Sorry, that should say describe the personal quality needed to do the occupation. So the vet, you need to be kind. You need to be supportive. You need to be friendly. And then you could also rank the occupations. So you could have a vet, and then you're going to choose 2 others. So I'm going to choose a vet, a firefighter, and an architect. And the teacher would say, most dangerous. And the student would then have to rank them. So they would say, firefighter, because he has to run into, or she has to run into burning buildings, a vet because she or he might get bitten by an animal, and the architect because he or she might get a paper cut in the office. So you can have many different versions of a tic-tac-toe game, which keeps it fun and interesting for your learners. Deep breath. Finally, I hope that you today have found some solutions for your teaching, both face-to-face and online. I hope that that you're ready for any scenario, that you've got some flexible ideas about how to move from an online to a face-to-face classroom and back again. So thank you so much for your time. I will be here again on Monday. You will see me here at the same place, the same time on Monday, and I will be doing a session on personalization. Now, before you go, actually, I forgot to share with you some more documents. So I'm going to share with you now a handout which has got lots of useful links. So everything I've showed you today, or shown you today, you should be able to access on the Macmillan English.com website ready for any scenario site. So have a look at that document and click away and use the resources that you need. And finally, the last thing is, if you want to follow us on Facebook, then please scan the QR code. If you want a newsletter to find out all the things that we're being involved with more webinars, other opportunities, the flexible learning, and other global webinars that we're running, then please join the Macmillan Teachers Education Club. And please, please, please complete the survey. This is very important to us. We take it seriously, your feedback, and we want you to be able to let us know what you need and what will help you moving forward in this day and age. So please, please, please complete the survey and let us know what you think. So I'm ready for any questions. So the certificate will be sent to you in a separate email, so you'll be able to download that very soon. That will come to you soon after the session finishes. Does anybody have any other questions? If not, we've finished perfectly on time, which is great because of our little technical problem that we had in the middle. I'm going to put my camera on as well now so I can say goodbye. So I'll hang around for a few minutes and answer any questions that you have. But if you are leaving now, then please take care of yourself and have a lovely Wednesday. See you again on Monday, hopefully. And thank you so much again for your time this morning. It's been a pleasure. Okay, so once again, thank you so much. Take care and see you again on Monday. Bye.